wanna see this. Yeah. Hey, I remember.
I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. And today we're going to be talking about content.
Excellent. We have Cory Coleman here, who's our special guest today. We're going to be talking about content with him as well because he does strategize and manage quite a bit of content, especially on our super cool agency side team. And he has a lot of insight that he's going to be able to share with us today. I'm excited to have you here. I've been waiting for this moment.
So let's talk a little bit about content creation to start, and then we'll get a little bit into how to fix broken content. So when I say broken content, I mean just content that's not converting very well and it's not ranking very well. So Cory, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you find content?
Yeah, I mean, first off, going with starting off with, they say, a new client, you're going to analyze their practice areas, their services, and then you're going to use, your usual tools as far as AdWords Planner, SEM Rush.
We should preface, though, when you start talking about practice area, service area, service areas. The big thing is that we're actually talking about one type of client. We're talking about typically a small and medium-sized business that has a service, provides a service, not a product, contingent upon geography. So I think we're going to be prefacing and we're going to be discussing a lot to do with people that service certain geographies. Is that correct?
Everything we're discussing right now is going to be local based, local small businesses or medium sized businesses. And that's kind of going to be where the first place you really want to start is looking at geo modified keywords. So you want to start with the city, and then that service area, like Ryan had mentioned, and then going within your keyword planner tools to begin doing an analysis and seeing like what are the primary keywords for the areas that they're trying to market to. So, and then after that, you're looking at the service areas around that primary area. So if you have one main metropolitan area, you do want to follow and look at see the next closest cities that are within a reasonable distance to target as well. And then copy that over to the other service areas that they do.
So Cory, what are some of the tools that you use for that? Because I know you mentioned keyword planning tools. What do you use? Yeah,
so one of the tools that I use is Keyword Planner, of course, through AdWords. And then another tool I use is SEM Rush. SEM Rush has some unique features, while Keyword Planner gives you a little bit more accurate monthly volume data.
I feel like Keyword Planner is complete shit. As an SEO tool.
How dare you?
Come on.
How do you use absolutely topical preliminary research with Google's
depends what you're using it for.
You're giving me for a keyword that may or may not be true at all, or the complete lack of any search volume for a keyword when they might even suggest that as a related keyword when you search.
Cory, how did you
surprisingly, Paul actually
has
a good point. It doesn't come often, but Keyword Planner isn't used for finding broad keywords. It's not used for finding new keywords. It's more used for, in my sense, at least when we develop new content strategies, is finding volume and verifying volume. Because SEM Rush or Ahrefs or Majestic is not going to give you accurate volume data.
Cory, you're a natural already. This is going well.
Cory, yeah, it is. For your first podcast, I think you're crushing it. I think you're killing it right now.
So you use keyword planning to kind of corroborate what you had in mind and be like, yes, I was correct after all. It's not so much to get the ideas.
That and as well as a lot of times clients want to see actually what the volume is for certain keywords, especially some of their main keywords, and that's something we'll send over to them in an email.
The real benefit of using it is drilling down to that geographical area, right? So you want to know the volume for DUI lawyer, whatever example that we're going to use later on in this, for that volume in that city and that geographical area.
Yeah, we also want to see what's more popular, DUI lawyer or DUI attorney, or we want to see what are the other variations that we should be targeting most.
That's a good point. Do you believe that Google, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but this is pretty relevant. Do you think that Google has, adapted its intelligence and its knowledge enough to know that a lot of keywords are interchangeable? At this point, Google's auto accident and car accident are the same thing. Lawyer and attorney are the same thing.
They're pretty good at LSI.
Yeah. Yeah, Google can definitely read synonyms. But you're also going to notice that there is a significant ranking difference between two similar keywords such as lawyer or attorney.
I will say that's totally true. Even the difference of something being plural or not will have completely different
Why don't you let our listeners know what the LSI means? So the L, it means latent, and that's all I remember.
It stands for latent semantic indexing, and really it's just a fancy term for synonyms for terms.
Well, you're a fancy guy, so I imagine that's why you said it.
I don't know if anyone has ever sounded as fancy as Cory sounds right now on this podcast.
You're exquisite. Keep going.
I'm just playing my beard.
So, getting back on topic here, how you pick keywords. So you're drilling down geographically. You're seeing specifically what people are going for, and like that's going to be like your main thing that you're going after. But picking keywords is one thing. Putting stuff in page titles, meta descriptions, anchor text, whatever. How do you come up with good content around those keywords?
Yeah, coming up with good content around those keywords is finding what are people searching, what are the problems people are looking for answers for. A big thing also is looking at the amount of searches being used as far as voice search, or find a lawyer near me, find the best pest control service near me. Those things are very interesting to look at. But as far as content goes on the other areas, you need to look at all the very different, unique, specific niches.
Here's what I really want to talk about, like content-wise. I mean, like picking keywords, whatever. That's like fucking like great and all, but like really, what we want to talk about is like shit, like converting and like ranking, right? And like, there's only so much you can really pick out of like a list of keywords for that's like to work. So what happens when maybe you have rankings or whatever, but you don't have conversions from it? So like, what do you do then when you look at the content? Like, how do you analyze that content, and how do you get better content or revise the content so it's going to work?
One of the reasons that we're doing this podcast, and I hope that hopefully this isn't cut out, because this is actually kind of the premise of why we decided to do this in the first place, is that Cory and I have we have 3 simultaneous reoptimization projects for both our own website, for a criminal defense client and a PI client. And it's all these clients for people that get tons of content, and we're just looking at it saying, we spent a lot of time on this. There's good writers that dedicate time to doing it. What can we do to like revitalize and make sure it isn't squandered or isn't wasted? Because a lot of topics we did good. It's just like we were saying. We did a lot of good keyword research and topic research. And we know that the topics are relevant. They're worthy of people searching for it. So what can we do to bring it back to life?
Yeah. And like, I have a really good example about this when you're done. That's not like location based. It's just going to be, because that's what I had to do a major job with at my last like SEO position, was sort of taking over that and revising that content.
Since you left that job, can you just be like, I remember?
I'm not gonna talk about specifics with that job.
No problem. Anyway.
Like the first place to go as far as conversions, we've been talking a lot about keywords and creating content, but we haven't really talked as far as fitting that content within a design, within a layout. And I think that's something we need to consider when you're talking about conversions.
Man, I know the viewers, or not the viewers, obviously, the listeners right now can't see Cory's face, but he's so excited to be doing this podcast. You just have a big old smile on your face.
Very excited.
Yeah, you're like,
I didn't even realize I had a smile.
Yeah, you're like smiling.
It's like Christmas morning for you.
Yeah, like this is freaking rad.
Do I get a present?
No, you don't.
Oh, well,
no, your present.
This is your present.
Your present is the knowledge that 4 people are going to download this. But anyway,
wait, I thought you said have 5.
Well,
that was the last
one. Going down?
4 of them, so it's like one person.
They're going to be like Cory Coleman. Oh, God, I don't want to listen to him for 40 minutes. So do you want to start with, or do you want to dive right into what a reoptimization project looks like as far as what we do? Because I think that our process is pretty solid, and it probably makes sense to a lot of people that do what we do. And for people that don't know as much as we do, it'd be like, hey, that's like probably a pretty good approach. So.
Yeah, and I think it's a unique and interesting approach, and something that a lot of people don't think about doing. You want to really start out with taking, a look at your analytics, going back a year, and downloading all that information. Export that out, and then organize it in a sense where you set a threshold. What content has only had X amount of views over this past year. Let's say we put 15, 20, 30, whatever it is. Whatever you decide is the appropriate amount. You now set that threshold, and now the content that's under that threshold is the stuff that needs to be re-optimized.
Agreed. I mean, the idea that, so like, let's say what a threshold would be, you're saying, a couple of numbers, but like, let's say it's 12 for the sake of argument, or to make an example. If you're saying that 12 people read this blog or got this blog through organic in the past year, so only one person a freaking month found this blog and read it a month, that's probably not that satisfying to anyone that created that. So creating a threshold is like, how many people is like enough for something niche? Is it like 30 people? Like, would you be satisfied if maybe like 2 or 3 people came across it a month, and if those numbers look good behind it too? So like, let's say the bounce rate is like nothing, and they navigated like 4 pages afterwards, and they read the article for 5 minutes. Would you be happy that like 3 or 4 people read a month? Maybe some people would, maybe some people wouldn't. It depends on what kind of website it is. So that's kind of how you kind of determine what that threshold is.
Yeah, I think we need to specify too. Like, we're not talking about super long tail stuff. I mean, if 4 people come to something that's like 5 words deep, 5 keywords. I mean, that's not bad because it might be really high converting, and like maybe 5 people gets you 5 sales.
Well, that's a great point.
So like, really, what you need to be looking at, what I always look at if something's successful is like the bounce rate too. So even if it's like ranking really well, you might be in the top 3. But if you have like a 90+ bounce rate on that content, it's really not serving the purpose that you had for it.
Yeah, and go a step farther and look at the next page path. You can use through analytics. You can see where this traffic's going for those pages, and though the bounce rate might be good because they're going to another page, you need to make sure that they're not just dumping off at the next page.
Sure, or they're not clicking on something random like some bogus link or a pop-up that you might have on your website that might throw it off. Who knows? Yeah,
and so another thing that I like to do too is Search Console really gives you a lot of great information on the actual click keywords that people are using to get to that particular page. And then you can really, I mean, it's almost like going back in the day when Google Analytics would give you the exact keywords that people searched to get to your site.
We all miss that.
Which was amazing.
I feel bad for kind of newer SEOs that never knew that, like, oh, come on, it was always not provided. It's like, no, dude, you used to be able to see all the keywords. That was pretty wild time.
And you could just super optimize for that one keyword that got all the clicks.
It was so easy. When did that change? About a few years ago already, right?
Oh, that was about 2011. That was when when they started taking that away, and then it was completed in 2012.
Holy crap,
there's
that's when I started.
With the new update that they're actually going to start dating that back farther, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but with Search Console, it really does give you a lot of that information.
Yeah, Search Console is really legit. So let's get too sidetracked. So okay, let's say we determine a threshold. Let's say that if you're like a small, medium-sized business, and you let's say you only get like I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but let's say you only get like 40, 50 visitors a day. And I know that we work with clients that get less than that, just because it's hyper niche. But if you get 40, 50 visitors a day, I mean, if you get a page that gets 5 views a month, might not even sound that bad. But if you have a website that's like very popular and gets thousands of views a day, if you have a page that gets 100 views a month, that might be pure crap. So let's say you establish your threshold and you're like, okay, everything below 10, 20 visitors, let's just say 20.
Well, really, like, you should be determining what this threshold is based off, what Cory was saying earlier was the keyword data. Right, so that you should be getting X amount of people based off of the rankings and what the keyword's bringing in from a volume standpoint.
Sure, like the monthly
so you
share.
Just be guessing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear. Like,
there's always you have your
there's a
unique
system that you can use to get to like what's an acceptable threshold.
Let's just say it's
I feel good about it.
No, let's just say it's an educated reference point.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So once you establish your educated reference point of what your threshold is.
Let's say it's 20. And then you identify that there are 80 pages of content on your website that get 19 or less visitors a year. How do you proceed with, I guess, pre-established re-optimization process?
Yeah, you want to, of course, it depends if you have a team, if you're kind of managing the SEO or the optimization yourself, you want to take a look and separate that out, see what each thing needs, and use maybe like a color system to identify what each page needs. For instance,
a color system on
Excel.
Okay.
You want to use this in Excel or Google Sheet, whatever's easiest for you. Especially if you're sharing with people, maybe you want to use a Google Sheet. But use a color system. Say, for instance, we have pages that need content rewrites, pages that need meta title and description updates, pages that need call to actions added to them. That's something a little bit more detailed, but let's just separate it into 2 different categories, like meta title and description updates and content rewrites or content updates. And then highlight those things and highlight those pages within the Excel spreadsheet. And then some pages are going to need both, and so you highlight a specific color and then you assign those out to yourself or whoever's on your team.
I think we might have skipped a couple of steps. So I think that what we do is, like, obviously we're going to Google Analytics. we're going under behavior. We're going to go under like site search. And then we're going to go to landing pages.
Okay.
I feel like it's like I'm not trying to do instructions,
Man, I'm
but
gonna have to edit so much out of this podcast.
no.
We're going like,
what I'm trying to do
exactly
is
how to do it.
All I'm trying to say is like how you'd actually get to that point, because there's like a couple of steps to get to that point.
Okay.
So like, yes, you're in analytics. You went to your data range. You went to the past year. Okay. Now you have that past year. Then you go to like the sidebar. Then it says behavior, and it goes to site search, and then it goes to landing pages. Then you have landing pages, but then you want to select it by organic, because we're only talking about organic right now. And then it's going to list out all the pages, but because Google Analytics, it's only going to show so many rows. So you're going to go to the bottom, and you're going to select like max amount of rows, which I believe is 5,000.
500.
I thought it was 5,000.
Are you sure it's 5?
I think it's 5 million. And then you're going to export it into Excel spreadsheet, and then you're going to order it by sessions, and then you're going to find your threshold, and you're going to delete absolutely everything above that threshold, meaning everything that got more searches or sessions than that threshold. And then we're at the point where you're talking about the color coordination.
Thank you.
I thought that was necessary.
That was a good point. Yeah.
To a few people.
We should put that in a PDF.
We might need to just start from scratch with this thing right now.
And then Cory said, from there,
you're going to take that spreadsheet and
Oh, God damn it. Cory, stop talking about spreadsheets. Holy shit.
spreadsheets are sweet.
We have to just start this thing.
did you not export it?
I'm not starting this.
You haven't exported it yet?
No. This is actually good.
This is good stuff. You have talked about that there's certain criteria. We're going to look at the meta information, meta title description. We're going to look at the word count, because word count is typically a factor. You're going to look at if the content is just pure freaking garbage to begin with. Like, it might have been written and you're like, wow, I had no idea that someone that wrote this was so fucking bad at writing content, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you're going to look at the links within that content as well.
Yeah.
You're going to look at the headings, even though some people don't feel there's an importance of headings.
that's true. There are people that feel that way.
It's your own call, but let the search engines show you the results.
Like they always do. Okay. And then how long does it take to be like, oh, what I did actually made a difference? How long would you wait?
At least 2 to 3 months, depending on how much content.
That sounds good to me. Paul, what do you think?
I wouldn't necessarily wait 2 to 3 months. I think you can see results from, especially on-page edits that you make to content, and there's definitely a fresh factor. With content and updates and stuff that can be picked up pretty quickly by the algorithm. I actually think like on-page edits see a much faster result in changes in the SERPs and links that you have, because obviously you have to wait for those things to get indexed individually and like the SEO juice to be pushed to those pages. But I think
so you think the semantic change is different than
I
something referred from another domain?
Because websites have a crawl budget, and they're regularly crawled depending on like the amount of traffic that you're bringing in. They're regularly crawled all the time, and as we're like a lot of times if you're buying links or if you're building links, they might be on very deep pages on a website, or you have to trust someone to like get those links indexed, and there's like a number of things, and maybe you don't even know like the URLs for those links, and you can't index them yourself or use a service for it. So I think ultimately, if you make on-page edits, you can see changes in the SERPs a lot faster than like link-related edits. So I would say like even within like 2 weeks, you could definitely see the changes, some change, positive or negative, from what you did.
I think Paul has a pretty good point, because if you look at the Google Search Console and you see like supposedly how many pages are being crawled daily, it's a freaking lot of pages. Mm-hmm. Like typically, like if your website's like 400 pages, it'll be like, oh, it crawled like 80 or 100 that day. So it means like, did you cycle through my website in 4 days, 5 days? Probably.
Yeah, and you can also, for the most part, force Google to crawl that page through Search Console if you want. So
that works.
It definitely works
real quick.
It's a really good way to get links crawled for other things.
Well, let me mention something about that.
We'll talk about that.
Let me tell a real quick story that we did have a little mishap with a certain client. We're not going to talk about it, obviously, but a certain city that they were in was spelled incorrectly, and we changed the meta title and we pushed it through Google, like indexed this right away, and it reflected in the search engine probably within 10 minutes. So if you ever want to push something through and for it to be reindexed, it's going to freaking reindex.
So actually, I got kind of a crazy story to tell you guys. This is off topic, but I want to talk about it.
How crazy?
I've never seen this before.
Off the microphone too?
No,
I'm gonna cover it up. It's covered.
Don't cover that up.
It's covered.
This is really bad.
Okay, go for
experience
it.
there.
No, so right now I'm working in the rehab niche for SEO. And the Google has manually placed one government website, number one, in Google.
Oh, they did?
Across the board for all these terms. Regardless of what city you're in, what state, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't build links to beat it. They are mandatory number one. And I've never before seen that for any industry.
So what you can do?
What's the government page?
Oh, I don't remember right now off the top of my head. It's basically for things that are rehab or like addiction related stuff. It's a government website.
Why don't they just pay for the ads like everyone else?
I've saw a similar situation where the government, as in the state of a certain state, was placing their
the state of a certain state.
placing
the state of the state.
the state of a certain state. The state of a certain country.
I think
should
they already
say.
know that we're in Florida, so you can actually say that because we've talked about it.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Here in beautiful Orlando.
it could be like fl.gov, whatever you want to call it. Place their government link at the very top of any law-related keywords, but with some powerful SEO efforts, they were demoted to number 2 position. So.
Yeah. So I just found it interesting that there are no amount of SEO efforts that can demote this to the number 2 position. It is
You don't know yet.
manually.
Until Cory came to the scene.
It's been like mandated. Like they have to put it there, and so it's literally manually done by Google.
How do you
There's no
know that?
algorithm changes to it.
How do you know it's mandated?
There was like a news story about it.
Let's beat it.
You cannot beat it.
Let's turn off the podcast and start working on it.
Okay, I'm excited about that. Actually, you guys want to just start doing my job for me?
Bye, guys. We got our marching orders. We got other stuff to do.
Yeah. All right. So I can talk to you guys a little bit about what I do to repurpose content or fix bad content, really. So when I took over my last SEO position, their idea of blogging was really like maybe 200 words of content about just some random thoughts someone in this industry was having. There was hundreds and hundreds of articles like that. They didn't really serve any particular purpose. A lot of them were even like news-related type things that were happening in the industry at that moment. So there was a very short lifespan of them. And so the general page view for most of these was like 0. It was about 0 over a
Not
2-year
more,
time.
nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, so the idea of evergreen content wasn't something that they had ever even thought about. When you think, and especially when you think about like SEO and blogging, you want to have stuff that has a very long shelf life that's going to bring in leads and traffic for like multiple years.
Yeah.
But they had never done anything like that before. So I had to meticulously go through all this stuff. And like the biggest problem with it is whoever was building the pages was just going willy-nilly with the page titles, the URLs, and all the metadata.
We're talking about URLs, like the URL structure,
Well, yeah. So like the keywords in the URLs
and like parent pages
the
too, or
H1s. Yeah. So we had all these pages that were indexed that were going after keywords that you would want something that was evergreen related, right? But it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't going to convert. It wasn't getting any traffic. There wasn't enough of a word count for it to really make any effect. It just was never going to rank for the stuff that they were going after. And then there would be like multiples of the same thing. So it would be like they were shittily cannibalizing themselves with shitty content and like causing problems with me. So I had to go through all this stuff, delete it, redirect it to like the actual articles that I wanted that were about those subjects. And like get everything recrawled so it didn't look like we had multiple pages on the site about the same thing.
Story is a lot about you and how you feel.
I didn't feel good about it.
But you did it. Actually, you bring up a great point. I want to mention this before we proceed with another part of the conversation. But when we're doing our re-optimization, and we're doing it right now for 3 different projects. We're doing it for a PI client, we're doing it for criminal defense client, we're doing it for our own website. Any instance of it being like news or timely, we're probably skipping over it. So if it's like our own website, every single time we're talking about like, this is how you set up a Facebook business account or a Twitter business account or Instagram business account, or Google comes out with a new algorithm update, or Facebook did this thing and it's all 2-3 years ago, it's just getting skipped over. It's probably actually going to get de-indexed because it's just like, why in the world would you spend your time re-optimizing anything that was news or topical at the time? There's no use for it now. So it's like, the new Hummingbird update comes out and it gets 2 views now. It's like, well, it's because the Hummingbird update doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
so that's the whole point.
You have to archive that stuff.
Yeah, it's going to get archived.
There's an archive for a reason, and that's the reason that you want to use it.
And then, like, if it's completely disregard anything that's news. So it's like criminal defense. It's like, John Goodman kills UCF student. He's a real motherfucker, and he went to jail for the rest of his life, which I'm so happy about. But I'm not going to re-optimize that blog because, what's the point?
Even if in a sense with that, like maybe you come out with a blog that says something about new sexting laws or new criminal offense law for this or that, and you probably might so rank for something that's very similar that might be searched. It's going to be so unrelated. It's not even.
How do you guys feel about appending and working on existing laws that get an update to the law, and then taking that old blog from maybe 2-3 years ago that has a new iteration of the law, and then like adding to it?
I don't have any problem with that. I actually think that you can continually add to articles that you have in your site, post, whatever, and update it with like better information that's coming out. And I think that...
Do you think people appreciate that maybe even more? That you've been working on the same article for several years?
I don't know if people care either way, because
they're
probably seeing it for the first time.
Do Googles care?
But I think Google does take into account freshness of like content and updates to content. And I think anytime you put more effort into a page and it crawls at it and it sees it, I think you do see a ranking benefit over time for doing that.
Yeah, and it can be beneficial too, especially if you're updating like a laws page, like we were talking about, and those laws do change. Those laws are something that you're going to get in the snippets with, and a fresh page is something that snippets are going to like.
Have you got a snippet?
Maybe once or twice.
Oh yeah, you got a snippet.
Maybe two or three.
I've gotten tons of snippets.
Actually, I didn't address Paul, but I was actually looking at Greg on the couch when I said that. He's been here the whole time. Greg, you get no,
Greg.
You didn't get a snippet. Anyway,
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you get a snippet.
I get a snippet.
Ah, good. Snippets are crazy. That's a whole different story, and schema is a whole another story too.
That's actually a good podcast talking about
Snippets are crazy. Yeah. And schema's even crazier.
Yeah,
we were just talking about doing job schema for someone. That's like a make or break, like especially our buddies.
You have to have. If you're a
job schema is a no-brainer.
Job posting website, you have to have it now.
I thought we were going to.
It's the same thing as Google Local Business.
I thought they were going to sell those dudes downstairs solely because I told them I was going to be able to get them job schema.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, Monster and Indeed is like taking that crap over. I'm like,
no.
Dude, I'm going to do it for you. And it's like, no, never mind.
That's actually the exact opposite. Like, it's featuring any company that's going to be able to do their schema markup correctly. So you're actually going to be able to rank above Monster and the rest of the companies because it lists above the rest of the organic results, and it gives you an opportunity to show your listings at the very top of the search result pack.
Let's not go there. This is riveting stuff.
Yeah.
Completely different.
This is definitely,
but very important.
It's so much more interesting than we've been talking about for the past 31 minutes.
It really is.
And someone's going to be listening to this and be like, but it's been the past 22 minutes. Like, oh man, we gotta cut out 9 minutes of bullshit.
You don't want to hear that anyways. Yeah,
okay.
So going back, how we revise some of this content. And so, you're just asking a little bit about, does Google really care about that?
Oh, yeah.
The blog example. So I know, I had an article published my last place, and it was probably there for about 6 months, and it didn't really get a lot of traction. And I edited as much as I can as far as like a keyword density standpoint, kind of rewrote it. But then I started adding like videos to it. I started adding additional things within it, like imagery of like what I was talking about within the text, all this other stuff that made it like a lot more interactive. And then all of a sudden, it jumped up to like the #1 spot for that, and it took over like the snippet for it. And so, like, all of those things wouldn't have happened if I hadn't done that. And there weren't any, like, links built behind this. It was literally all on-page stuff.
Yeah.
I was just super increasing, like, the time on page for that article and, like, the user interaction with it. And all of that resulted in it being jumped up to, like, the #1 spot.
I think I like there's something, like, very cool about the idea of taking really broad topics or something that's just, like, a great article that you wrote or something that you just, like, you just nailed it, and just working on it, consistently over time, and just watching it evolve, and adding imagery and adding like little bits and pieces to it. And
yeah, you're kind of proud of it at the end when you really have it like optimized. You're in the top spot. You have a really low bounce rate on it, and it actually gets conversions that you're tracking.
you're kind of like, man, like I did that, and it's way better than everyone else's stuff that they have that's ranking on the first page.
Yeah, because it's hard to get into the mindset like, oh, I got to write content just for the sake of writing content. I got to follow that aforementioned content is king. I'm just writing just because like I have to write and I have to be fresh and I have to do it for Google, and that's the only way Google is going to crawl crap. It's just like, you don't write for the sake of writing, right? Because like you're genuinely like stand behind these topics and want to be the authority or expert on these said topics, and you just want to kill it. And you don't want people to read other fucking people's articles on it. They're like, no, I wrote it the best. I am the best on that topic, and I'm going to do what I can to make sure that sits forward. And whatever you read after mine is pure crap, and I have the best one.
Honestly, if you didn't know anything about SEO and you wanted to rank something number one, my advice would be search that term, read the top article that comes up for that, and then just make something way better.
Like at least 2 times better.
Yeah, just make it read better, make it like the flow better, make it like way more user friendly, add cooler stuff to it, and it'll rank better.
Just make sure like you keep on saying, don't like leave this article, because if you go next one, it's gonna be way worse, because this is the best one.
This is the best article you will read on this subject today.
This is the best podcast on content you'll ever listen to.
Maybe
it's
not.
all about confidence.
Maybe not.
If you exude confidence in both your, verbally and through text. Yeah, it's all, it's like the fake it till
So
you make
confidence
it.
is king, not content is king.
Oh yeah, confidence is king.
Content confidence is
So
king.
what did you say? Confidence king. Wait, content
Content is king. What's the word?
So what do you do in a situation, you guys, if you spent all that time? So in our situation, let's preface a little bit. So we have really good content writers, and they spend a lot of time, researching and compiling and proofreading, and then doing like the right formatting and entering in the right like internal and external links, and finding like a really sweet Shutterstock image that really captures the moment. And then it's like the perfect article. It's like so great. And maybe they spent like 3-4 hours on it, which is not always, but it happens every once in a while. And then they look back like 3 months later and like, son of a bitch, this has gotten 0 visitors. And then they're like, no, don't worry. I looked at the meta information. The title wasn't that great, actually. And then this is a broad topic. Maybe I could send like a couple links to it. Maybe boost it up with like a little bit of authority. And then 3 months later, it still doesn't have any visitors. This is a tough one. What do you do?
I advertise that on social. Just start driving some traffic to it any way I can.
I didn't mention that. Sure. Would you boost it? You want to throw $3 at it?
I would definitely boost it, because I'm a big believer in repurposing your content in every medium that you possibly can. So every now and then, this situation does happen where it's really good content. Maybe like what you're trying to rank for is so competitive that it's just not going to happen for you. Like you're not going to break the top 10 because there's just the level of domains above you are so competitive.
Well, and true as far as its published date, and I have multiple times where just because of the sheer timeliness of it being published is good enough for it to stick. And the best example I can give is, you all remember when I did that Zeralto attorney stuff?
I do.
And that ranked number 2 in the country for about a year, not because it's the most authoritative website, not because I built the most links, not because I had the most social shares, but because I published it like 4 months before the next person. I published it way in advance.
Yeah. So how much of that do you think is like people, like you first published it and then the search volume for that took off? Right.
Oh yeah,
and then people actually clicked
it goes
on
back to
afterwards,
click through,
right?
Yeah,
and so all of that, is recorded in the algorithm that
right.
happened.
That's
true. I think like if you can beat like the rush to those things, which doesn't happen very often, that can definitely happen.
No doubt in my mind. But Cory, he mentioned social media. What would you do? Would you pat Lauren on the back and be like, it'll be okay next time?
Are we talking about some content that is just like a very niche type of area,
well, you mentioned that Paul over here mentioned it didn't necessarily have to be niche. It could have been kind of broad, but there's just too many people that beat you to it. So it's like a broad topic, like 50 people wrote about it already. You're just not going to make it. But then you can break through it maybe a little bit by doing a little bit of social sharing. What would you think about doing? Throwing the towel, just give up?
No, I mean, I'd find what's the next closest variation that we could possibly rank for it. maybe make some optimizations there.
So you're
and
saying
then
go long tail and try and push people.
Go more longish.
yeah, potentially. It really depends on, are we talking about like a geo-modified page, or are we talking about something more of like a question-based?
It sounds like more it's like a blog topic.
Let's stick on like question based here.
Yeah, something like that. I'd probably find a more long-tail version if we were just so far off from the possibility of getting into the top first page results.
So let's say the blog was like, Beanie Babies have been around forever, right? And 500 people wrote about it already. And then one of our content writers is like, I want to write about Beanie Babies. And she actually compiles like the best article about Beanie Babies of all time. But
then
it never ranks.
I would figure out a way to rank it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think at this point you just start focusing on taking down the people ahead of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, one at a time.
Yeah.
Who hacked my Weebly? Where did my Squarespace go? Where did my Name Solutions website builder got hacked? How is that possible?
One of my clients has his site built in like Squarespace, or not Squarespace. It's like a worse one than Squarespace.
Wix.
It is. Wait.
Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace.
You know what?
It might be Wix.
Honestly,
Probably
I'm
Wix
not going
Wix
to
is
talk
awful.
crap about Squarespace at least not Squarespace, because man, Squarespace, man,
Squarespace is awful.
They have some nice designs though.
No, Shopify has nice designs.
Yeah, but
If you're all listening,
they get you on the upsells.
if you want to make a Squarespace website, type in my promo code squarespace.com/Ryan Klein in Orlando. Okay.
We don't have those. We should.
No, I'm not. I am not a proponent of any website builders being that we build websites.
Well, the only services we're pitching on here are the ones that we offer. So that's our only endorsements.
So what have we learned today? We've learned how to identify.
Well, not much.
Well, hopefully some. I mean,
A little bit.
Paul's texting right now, so he's got better
I'm
shit
texting.
to do.
I'm not texting.
Corey's like thinking like, I'm gonna start reading this
trying to
book.
build a Squarespace website. You're talking.
How cool to be able to be able to build a website on your phone. I bet they've been developing that for years and couldn't figure it out yet. I bet you anything. Anyway,
Yeah.
I bet you anything that there's website builders that you can do on your phone. What you get, drag and drop. Bet you anything.
You bet that there are.
Oh yeah, well at least
It's probably
it's
template based.
I
It's
bet-
field based.
well, at least it's in
something already
development.
like created out where you just enter what your information you want in the fields.
That's true too.
Mobile-based
Okay.
website builder. Let's
All right. So, to reiterate everything we learned today, so we'd be like, okay, I have a crap ton of pages on my website. Let's say you have 50, 100, 5,000. You're like, there's no way all these pages are performing. That's just not possible. They're not all performing the way that you probably want to. So we go into analytics, and then we identify which ones aren't. We export them. Then we're going to go through the meta title and description. Is always a great start. You're probably going to revise that almost no matter what. If your word count is nothing, or the content is just pure garbage, obviously that's probably going to be the main reason.
Yeah, and like I think we forgot to mention, like sometimes the content rewrite just really involves something is adding like one more section to that piece of content.
Well, and then sometimes you like make references in your content that are outdated too. That could use like a refresh, and it's like,
Yeah, that won't necessarily be the reason why it's not working, but you should just have good content.
but it's like we were talking today about like what makes wine, Chianti from Italy better than Sonoma Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. It's not one little thing. It's not because there's a little bit more potassium in the soil than in one place and another. It's because
Why did you sound super Italian when you were saying that?
because talking about Chianti. It's because a lot of different things. It could be the weather. It could be because of the soil. It could be the water. It could be what was going on that particular year, the downdraft, updraft. It could be. It's just so many different variables, and it all comes together. And before you know it, your reoptimization project was kind of worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if nothing works after that, go on Mechanical Turk and pay people to go to the site.
Tight. Oh God, we should make sure
Next
that no matter
podcast,
any podcast we do,
manipulating
it's like.
click-through
Just
rates.
use Mechanical Turk.
But when in doubt, Mechanical Turk just take a rest.
Just go and buy some. Maybe it'll pick up. Sometimes you get a little lighter fluid on the fire.
To download our click-through rate study.
So right now, your podcast is at about the 30-minute mark. According to us, it's about the 42-minute mark. So
This is definitely
so keep
I
that in
wouldn't say our
mind.
best podcast.
But I will say it's our best.
It was one of the more fun podcasts.
That's cool. So I think that we covered a lot about content in the form of like reoptimization.
Kind of.
Did we talk about a lot?
Yeah, I feel like we covered
A lot
like
of stuff.
how to download a spreadsheet and identify it. And then we like kept getting sidetracked.
You went like you went from.
Man.
Well, I didn't think I have to guide
you're gonna go
through
on
the exact
analytics.
download process.
No, you're gonna go on analytics. You're gonna look at them, and then you're gonna be coloring stuff.
I said export.
It's not in color.
I mean, people know how to export.
By the way, bonus
Oh, sorry.
bonus content. So if you're in a metropolitan area and then you have a service, make sure you build out city pages for every single city in your area, because I can't tell you how many probably small medium-sized business owners are like, I'm just in the city, that's it. But it's like, dude, there's like probably 15 cities around you that you should probably build pages for, and you'll probably show up in like the probably at least the first page typically.
Just make sure you like check some populations first. Probably want to set a threshold there too sometimes.
Like 10 people. like a client that we have in Kansas, and
You know,
Like and
sometimes-
and
like
they're
all the
like,
content, all the content of Lauren Rashad, right? And then they see
sometimes
like 2
one of those
fucking
people need a
visits.
lawyer, you know, like you never know.
all right. Anyone have any questions? Oh, this is
Yes.
this
No?
is a one-sided
Sat
conversation.
down? Okay.
My apologies. Well, this has been a really good conversation, Corey. Thanks for coming. I think that you had a good time, even though you're kind of like getting comfortable. And oh, you want to record another one after this? Cool. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think it's good to do back to back.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
I
it.
hope you're ready for that.
All right. Well, this is Paul Warren,
This is Ryan Klein.
and that was our guest, Cory
Coleman.
Yeah, it was.
Cory Coleman.
And we're coming to you from Orlando, Florida. If you have any questions or you want to mail in about a topic, you can email Paul at SEOisdeadcast.com.
That is not a thing.
I think that we own the website though.
Don't email. You can't
It's
email
a
me anyways.
it's a catch-all. It gets forwarded to Mom, and his mom is the one that's been downloading all the episodes and overinflating her ego. So appreciate it. Have a good time. Hope you learned something, and we'll all talk soon. All right.